Hello students, welcome to your English literature class. We are doing The Darkling Thrush by Thomas Hardy. So far we have done explanation of 3 stanzas and today we'll complete the explanation. Also, I'll discuss with you the form and structure of the poem. By the end of the poem, you'll be able to categorize the poem. Also, you'll be able to explain the poem in your own words and give your own emotional responses to the poem. Let's get started. We have already done that the speaker on a frosty evening is leaning on a gate which leads to a small forest. While the speaker is outside on a barren landscape, the rest of the world is comfortably inside, warmed by their household fires. The sharp outlines of the winter landscape seem to the speaker like the sharp features of a corpse. It's the dead body of the dying 19th century. The very processes of nature are at a standstill, and every person on the planet seems as lifeless as the speaker himself. Then a thrush, this is a bird, a thrush suddenly appears and sings a joyful song that disrupts the silence of the dead. The thrush is weak, old, thin, yet it sings a joyful song wholeheartedly. We have done this far. Now let's see what the poet has to say next. Open your Reverie textbooks, page number 7. So little cause for carolings of such ecstatic sound was written on terrestrial things afar or nigh around, that I could think there tremble through his happy good night air some blessed hope whereof he knew, and I was unaware. Note down the meanings of difficult words on your book. Carolings, singing of songs. This word comes from the word carols. You must have heard about carols, the songs that are sung on the occasion of Christmas. Next word is ecstatic. It means joyful. Terrestrial means earthly, the landscape we are referring to. Afar means in the distance. Nigh means nearby. Hope refers to some hope of good fortune. Whereof means of which. The last stanza of the poem is filled with a sense of life and hope, which is brought by the song of the thrush. The speaker feels that there are no signs of hope or joy to justify the song of the bird. There is nothing on the earth, near or far, which could have made the thrush sing so happily. Now the speaker feels that there might be some hope, some blessed hope he refers to here. There might be some hope in the heart of thrush, in the heart of the bird, of some good fortune about which the speaker is unaware. Maybe the thrush has some hope in him. The speaker is unaware of it. Thus, the speaker fails to understand the reason behind the joyful song of the thrush. Now, when the poem ends, there seems to be no communication between man and nature. Both are indifferent to each other. However, the song of the thrush is perhaps a hint given by nature that nothing is permanent. If winter comes, spring is not far behind. So, the new century that is about to take birth may bring some hope of good to the ailing humanity, to the suffering humanity. Thus, the poem comes to an end. Now, let us discuss the literary devices used in this stanza. There is only one literary device or the figure of speech, that is personification. The poet begins the word hope with a capital H. So, hope as if it were a human being giving hope to mankind, so it is personification. Now the poet has made very beautiful use of images in the poem. The speaker's leaning against a coppice gate is an example of visual imagery. just like the tangled bind stems that coat the sky, which is also a visual imagery. When you talk about the cloudy canopy, this is also an example of visual imagery, while this voice that arises from among the bleak twigs is an example of auditory imagery. I hope by now you have understood the whole poem. Now let us discuss the form and structure of the poem. When we talk about form and structure, we mean to tell what type of poem it is and how many stanzas are there, how many lines are there, and what is the rhyme scheme of the poem. So, Darkling Thrush is an example of lyric poetry. Lyric poetry deals with the poet's own feelings, states of mind, and perceptions. Although its name has been derived from lyre, you have read about the word lyre yourself, and implies that it is intended to be sung, yet much of the lyric poetry today is meant for reading. Though lyric poetry has love as its main theme, many poets have written lyric poems on war and peace, nature and nostalgia, grief and loss. Lyric poetry can be further divided into various categories, and this poem Darkling Thrush falls in the category of elegy. Why is an elegy? First of all, we need to understand what is an elegy. An elegy is a mournful, melancholy poem, especially a lament for the dead or a funeral song. So, in the first two stanzas, we have seen that the poet is mourning the death of the 19th century. Therefore, this poem can be considered as an elegy. This is the form of the poem. Now, what is the structure of the poem? In the poem, we have basically 4 stanzas. We have done 4 stanzas, each having 8 lines. The rhyme scheme used in the poem is ABAB, CDCD. That means the first line rhymes with the third line, the second line rhymes with the fourth line, the fifth line rhymes with the seventh line, and the sixth line rhymes with the eighth line. So, gate and desolate, grey and day, sky and nigh, lyres and fires. And this pattern is followed throughout the poem. Thus, the form of the poem is, it's a lyric and can be considered as an elegy. In structure, the poem has 4 stanzas having 8 lines each with the rhyme scheme AB, AB, CD, CD. Thus, we come to the end of this poem. I hope by now you have understood what the poet intends to say. Now open your workbook on Reverie and go through the question number 1 given in your books on page number 13.